Alrighty, everybody. Sorry about that. It cut me off a little bit. I was actually taking a very important phone call, so I really needed to take care of that business and how that goes and whatnot. But as far as everything else goes, everything else is all good. I just had to keep up with a thing, and I really appreciate your patience. So if you're coming back on right now, thank you so much for coming back on. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to my football fanatics and whatnot. So thank you for that. So we'll talk about this game. So this was the catch of the year. Question mark. I believe it was the catch of the year. I believe this was the game that really set the game over on edge. Really crazy final play of the regular game of the regular period before the game went into overtime. Crazy. It was just absolutely insane of how this game really went, and I couldn't have asked any better way for a game to go the way that it did. But it was awesome. It was amazing. But I gotta also say too, the touchdown celebration. Yes, the DJ Moore celebration, took his helmet off, celebrating a huge catch of the year per se. I think it's going to be the catch of the year. I don't think there's going to be many catches that even go anywhere close to what this one was this year. But I got to say, all those in favor, I got to say, this was crazy. This catch was absolutely crazy. And it came from, where we least expected. And it came from PJ Walker, the FXL quarterback of another league of football. Didn't even play many NFL games before, 2 years ago when he started over Teddy Bridgewater for a couple of games. Um, but yeah, regardless, this was a crazy catch by him. Crazy catch for him. It was crazy. It was just absolutely crazy. It was like it was not well over 60 yards, but it was definitely over 60 yards in the air. Absolutely incredible of how this play went. Absolutely incredible. But I got to say, it was awesome. But yeah, the touchdown celebration was the huge factor. Why do I say that? Why do I say that? Well, instead of being ahead by 1 point, that could have made a whole world difference. It costed them. It definitely cost them on the extra point. It was a penalty that backed them up quite a few yards. I think it was 10 yards or something like that. I don't know. It was something like that. But Eddie Pinheiro, the kicker, the infamous kicker, when he was with the Bears, he missed a lot of kicks there. Guess what happened? He missed this extra point, and this game had to go into overtime with 12 seconds left in regulation. How crazy was that? That whole play, I gotta say, there was some parts of this game that I did watch and was impressed with. It was, like I said, back and forth game, but I definitely could not believe just how well the Falcons have been playing this year. This was probably the most Falcons thing I would have probably ever anticipated them to do. I thought they were going to lose this game. As soon as DJ Moore caught that amazing 60-yard catch from PJ Walker, which was an impressive win, nonetheless, impressive pass nonetheless. I thought they would have done a much better job by covering him in that field, but no, he took it all the way down the field. He took it. He passed that ball, that bad boy, 60 yards to DJ Moore. Boom, you have a touchdown. Insane. And that touchdown celebration changed the entire game. If that celebration never had happened, Panthers would have easily, and I mean easily, would have won this game. Absolutely incredible. And then the overtime period, I didn't get to watch a whole lot of it, but based off of what I heard from Bottom Line View, the way of how this came about was to the effect of where Marcus Mariota, I think he threw an interception or turned the ball over or something, and probably could have, put them in pretty good field position to, win in overtime with the field goal. And of course, Eddie Pinheiro not only missed the extra point, but he also missed the field goal too. And it was a pretty makeable field goal, I think it was. At least something like that. But and then the Falcons came back. They marched down the field a little bit. They got a field goal, and the Falcons ended up winning this game. So it was the most Falcons thing for them to give up, a touchdown like that at the end of at the end of regulation. And it was also the most Falcons way to, almost give the game away to the Panthers again and could have lost the game. It was absolutely crazy. Um, do I feel like the Panthers should have won this game at the end of that game? Yeah, they definitely should have. But more importantly, what I really want to talk about more about this game is just the way of how like DJ Moore was. Like I want to talk more about like how the touchdown celebration changed everything. Like okay, yeah, and there's a big difference between like excessive celebration where you're celebrating for a long period of time versus a touchdown celebration that's like maybe 5 seconds, maybe even less than that. Like just throwing your hands up in the air, maybe doing like a Rocky Balboa and just jumping up and down at the top of the stairs in Philadelphia, and like that's what you're thinking of. Like that's like a quick celebration. You feel good about it. I think it was ridiculous. I think anytime you're trying to celebrate, I believe if it's not that excessive, I understand that you don't want it to be excessive. I understand it's an NFL rule where you can't take off your helmet if you're on the field at all times. I understand all of that. It's definitely a penalty. I agree with all that. That's totally fine. But I got to say, though, too, in just some respects, that's just a hard call to make. I'm sorry. I understand it was the right call. It's something that you have to follow through, but that's a hard call to make at such a most crucial time of the game where, your season may be on the line, the division title is on the line, and you're calling this kind of penalty. Like, come on. That's just ridiculous. I don't believe you should get penalized for something as silly like that in this crucial point of the game. I'm sorry. Like, I think you need to celebrate a little bit. You got to feel proud of what you did. That's an amazing accomplishment that just happened right there. But that changed the whole momentum of the game. I think a lot of people were talking about it. In fact, and even if they aren't, guys, I think you should really talk more about this game and just not just this catch, but I think you got to talk more about the touchdown celebration as a whole because that's just absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right. Kirk Cousins. Here's my man, Kirk Cousins. I talk so highly of him all the time. He actually did very well for me for fantasy football this weekend. Helped me lead up to my win. In fact, guys, I won all 3 games this weekend. In case you didn't know, but Kirk Cousins had a nice 17-yard touchdown, rushing touchdown in the beginning of the game. And Kirk Cousins as a whole, the Vikings as a whole, played really well. I thought offensively. Sorry, I know this is like very tempting. I thought they played a really good game. I thought the Vikings offensively, Kirk Cousins looked like Kirk Cousins. He plays very accurate football. Makes deep throws when he has to. I thought Kirk Cousins played a really good game against the Cardinals. The Cardinals are a team. They're kind of like the Browns a little bit. They're a mix of a couple of other teams that I could think of, like the mind right now, like the Ravens, maybe, where they're kind of like run heavy with like a Kyler Murray who likes to rush around the field, run around and get some yardage and whatnot. And they're a little bit more like, who was the other team I said? The Ravens, and there was another team I said they were kind of like the Browns. They like running the football, and they haven't really been all that great with running the football this year, minus Kyler Murray. James Conner's been in and out of the lineup this year. Benjamin had I believe one solid game, and that was really it on the ground. But other than that, they're not really the most consistent run team in this league right now. But I will say this about the Cardinals: their defense, they hadn't played good defense all season long. I think their defense is coming together a little bit now. I think when you have J.J. Watt play, it does make some difference for you to play really well. And I thought they played, I thought the defense, matched up kind of well. I thought they matched up well. I thought they played a good job against, the Minnesota Vikings and their receivers. They took Justin Jefferson out of there a little bit, so that left up some more targets for like Irv Smith. Opened up a big game for Dalvin Cook, which Dalvin Cook had a really good game. Adam Thielen had some good plays here and there. KJ Osborne had a good touchdown pass there. But yeah, I mean, you guys got to stop underestimating the Vikings. The Vikings are a good team. I don't know what other ways to say it, guys. They're a very well-deserving 6-1 team. They really are well-deserving 6-1 team. They're a very good team offensively. And Kirk Cousins is so underrated as a quarterback. Like, Guys, you don't know how good of a quarterback Kirk Cousins is. The only downfalls I see from Kirk Cousins that he does struggle with is obviously, yeah, he does not play very well in prime time. That is for sure. If he plays every game of his career at 1 o'clock or like a late evening game, yeah, that's the best Kirk Cousins that you'll see. But the games that Kirk does play, and he does play very well in, is it's very nice football to see him play, and especially if the offenses can get going. The offensive line has improved more. I think it's definitely much more improved than it was the last couple of years. The offensive play calling is much better under Kevin O'Connell than it was under Mike Zimmer. It's I think they're just a good team. I think they're a good offensive team. Kirk Cousins, extremely underrated. They pass the ball very well with Justin Jefferson. Adam Thielen is still a very good receiver. He's not anywhere near the level of talent that he used to be like the last couple of years because he's had a lot of injuries. He's gone through a lot of adversity, but he's still a very good slot receiver. I liked Adam Thielen a lot. And then you've got KJ Osborne. He can get some help there here and there. Irv Smith was a decent tight end, but now they got TJ Hawkinson. They got in a trade today from Detroit. That's going to be an interesting trade. I think that's a good trade right there for the Vikings. That's a good addition. I like TJ Hawkinson. I think that's going to open up some more targets now. So that way they don't have to rely on the receivers all the time. So now they'll be able to use a tight end and they can get him more involved too with TJ Hawkinson. And they also have a good run game too. So in a way, they're more, you know what they kind of remind me of, like offensively? Minus the offensive line, they remind me of the Bengals. The Bengals can pass the ball very well if they have Jamar Chase in. And when they need to run the ball, they can run the ball. And that's what the Vikings can do. Dalvin Cook can run the ball very well. And he's actually been doing better than he did last year. He's been staying healthy for the most part, right? I think he's been staying healthy for the most part. But I think the one weakness for the Vikings, and it's something that everyone else has seen, the defense is still not there. The defense is nowhere near the way of like how Mike Zimmer used to have the defense set up, and they were a good defense at one point. But now they're kind of slipping away. Their defense is kind of slow. Secondary isn't really the most impressive to me. Uh, Patrick Peterson has good. He's hit or miss. I don't really completely trust their defense, but what I like about the defense this year more than I do last year is that a lot of the close games that the Vikings were in last year, they should have won, and the close games that the Vikings have been playing this year, they've been closing in like those really close games and they're winning them. That's why they're at the position that they are. Now, as far as like the NFC, are they one of the best teams in the NFC? I certainly think so. I think they're better than the Rams. I think they're better than obviously they're better than the Rams. They're better than another team, the Bucks. I think they're playing better than the Bucks for sure. I think they're a better team than the Packers, absolutely. I think they're a better team than the Cowboys offensively. I think they're better than the Cowboys. Maybe not defensively, but better offensively than the Cowboys. The Eagles, I think, are the only team in the NFC that really gives the Vikings the most problems. I think if the Vikings and the Eagles have a rematch of the NFC Championship in the championship final, that would be a very tough game for the Vikings to beat. That would have to be like the game that they would have to absolutely prove that they can win like big games like that. And that would be such a huge moment for Kirk Cousins and company and a big moment for their franchise to win that game if they could. They could, but I think the Eagles are their only real tough team that I think they'll struggle against if they even make it that far to the playoffs, which I think they're comfortably in the lead right now with the AFC North. They're looking like they're probably going to win it as of right now, but still a lot of football left. I don't want to say too much before it happens, but they're looking like the team that could win the AFC North, NFC North, excuse me, and I think they'll do very well. But yeah, we got to stop underestimating the Vikings, guys. They're a good team. They're a good offense. They pass the ball very well. They run the ball very well. They do a lot of really good things very well offensively. We got to stop underestimating them. They could be a threat for the NFC. I really believe they could be a threat for the NFC. And I'm rooting for my man Kirk Cousins. I just love Kirk Cousins. I don't know what it is about him. I just don't know what it is about him, but I just love Kirk Cousins. Big Kirk Cousins fan. And as far as the Cardinals go, right now, the NFC West right now is just so up and down. I don't know what to make of them. Are they even a playoff team? I don't know. I mean, they're a hard team to figure out. Like I just don't know what I can make of this team right now with the Cardinals. I can't say too much about them. However, I can talk a lot about Tony Pollard. Guys, let me just start here. Tony Pollard should start over Zeke the rest of the year. I'm just gonna leave it at that right now. Tony Pollard should start over Zeke for the rest of the year. You know how explosive Tony Pollard was? Do you know how valuable he was in fantasy football this week? Do you know he got me to a very important win in fantasy football this week? Do you just know how electrifying, how fast Tony Pollard is, and how good of a running back that he is? He is. Like, guys, I'm not saying this to be like mean to Zeke Elliott. I'm not hurting any Cowboys feelings with Zeke. I'm not being mean to Jerry Jones because we all know Jerry Jones loves, for whatever reason, he said early in the season that the offense starts and stops with Zeke. Guys, let's let Tony Pollard get more snaps for now on than Zeke. I just feel that he's way more elusive. He's so much more faster, and he's more trustworthy in my opinion. He doesn't get hurt anywhere as much as Zeke does. I feel like Tony Pollard is just so underrated, so underpaid for the value that he is. I think he needs to be starting for this team. He should definitely get more bulks of the snaps than Zeke does. Zeke is good, but he's good more towards where you can use him as like more of like a goal line stand. If you need to run the ball to the end zone, I think he's more of your guy, or to get like a short field advantage, or maybe you need like a yard or two to get past it. I think he can do that very well. But as far as like being a starting running back for this team, man, I gotta say you gotta start Tony Pollard over Zeke. I'm sorry. Like I'm sorry, I really am. I just like Tony Pollard better. I like Tony Pollard better than Zeke. And Dak looks like he's back to being Dak Prescott. I think, unless if this Bears defense really wasn't all that great, which we know they're not. They're solid, but they're not great. And as the Bears offensively, what I like about what the Bears do, they don't pass the ball very well, and they don't really have a good receiving core. Well, now they're going to be getting Chase Claypool, so that will be interesting to see. But outside of like that and Darnell Mooney, like who else does Justin Fields have to throw the ball to? He really doesn't. And you got to rely on the run game with David Montgomery. You got to trust Khalil Herbert. And then you got to trust Justin Fields to make plays too on his feet, because not all the time in the world where he's going to have a lot of time in the world to throw the ball away or throw it to a receiver, his intended receiver. He doesn't get time like that, guys. This guy does not get all those kind of times to do that kind of thing. So he's got to leave it up to that. But with having Chase Claypool, we'll see how that really goes. But as far as the defense is concerned for the Bears, with losing Roquan Smith, and did they also lose Robert Quinn too? I think they lost Robert Quinn. I don't know. But Roquan Smith is going to the Ravens. Like I said before, I think that's probably it's going to change a little bit of how the defense plays for the Ravens. But as far as anything else goes, I think the Ravens are still not that great of a team. They're definitely not that impressive. Robert Quinn. Oh yeah, Robert Quinn. Yeah, Robert Quinn is going to the Eagles. That's what it is. That's going to help the Eagles defense. That might even help them be more consistent. They may actually be more scarier than that. So I just wanted to say, Tony Pollard eats it up. He's got to be the starter for the Cowboys for the rest of the season. I don't care what it is. He's got to be one for the rest of the season. All right, next one we've got the Saints, the New Orleans Saints, the Sean Paytonless Saints, the Drew Breesless Saints, the team that I anticipated them to be a pretty dark horse team in the NFC this year, the Saints. Andy Dalton, my man Andy Dalton, is playing probably one of his best football that he's played in a really long time, honestly. I feel like the way the Saints are, and they're a very weird team because they're very hard to really figure out. They're a very injured team right now. They're dealing with a lot of injuries, especially at like wide receiver. They had some problems at running back, but I think Alvin Kamara is playing back to where he was. I really like what the Saints did against the Raiders last week. Now, granted, I picked the Raiders over the Saints because I really thought this was a game that the Raiders had the best opportunity to win this game, especially off offense after the way that Josh Jacobs has been playing for weeks. But I got to give credit to the Saints, though. I got to give credit to my man Andy Dalton, and I love Andy Dalton. I really do. I like him. I like Kirk Cousins. Like I like all those guys. I think the real underrated quarterbacks are like the ones that I really have like the most utmost respect for, because of like how much criticism that they get. But I feel like when you have someone like Andy Dalton, a veteran in the NFL, play at like this kind of a level still, and playing well with the team that's been struggling for a little bit, but they still have some pieces and talent that you can work around. That's what I really like. And I feel like the offense for the Saints has been playing better since Dalton came in over Jameis Winston. I think when Jameis Winston was in, Jameis Winston was playing Jameis Winston. He played like he was when he was with the Bucks. He slings the ball all over the place. He never likes to take a check down. And even if a wide receiver's not open, he's still going to throw it there anyway and sling the ball right to there. And he'll throw up interception. But Andy Dalton is different than that. Yeah, Andy Dalton makes some very questionable decisions with the football, but I think when you contain him, when you have a good team around you like this, and I think this is one of the better teams that he has been around in his tenure in the NFL, which is a good thing for them. I think having like this good of talent like Alvin Kamara, you can use Alvin Kamara in the run game. You can use him in the passing game. Chris Olave has also been stepping up too. He's been doing quite well with the absence of Michael Thomas. But yeah, I like what the Saints are doing. I still think they're a decent team. I like the way they play. Their defense played excellent. I thought the defense took advantage of every single aspect against the Raiders that led them to the shutout. It was an excellent defensive game for the Saints. And offensively, too. I'd say Alvin Kamara is back to being Alvin Kamara. I really do. I think he's back to playing football. I think he looks better. He's adjusting well to this new coaching staff. He's adjusting well to the new team. And I thought with the Saints the last couple of weeks, they haven't really been playing like their defense hasn't played the best defense this year. But I think this is one of their better games defensively that they've played this year. Even without Marshawn Lattimore, I still think they played well. But as far as the Raiders go, man, the Raiders are in trouble. I mean, I'm sorry to say, Raiders fans, I'm even apologizing to myself because I liked what the Raiders were in the offseason. I really did. But man, oh man, do they have a lot of problems. Defensively, it starts with the defense. The defense is terrible. Defensive line outside of Max Crosby, secondary's not very good. Defensive line's not good besides Max Crosby. They don't get a good pass rush in. They don't get any kind of pressure at all. And then you look at the offensive line for the Raiders, it's been a lot of up and down this year. I think they're looking better than they did in the beginning of the season. But really, Derek Carr is playing Derek Carr. He has good moments. And then, this week especially was one of his worst games of the year. Devontae Adams was not really non-existent in this game. I don't know where he was. Hunter Renfrow is being Hunter Renfrow. Where are you, Hunter Renfrow? You're not getting yourself involved yet. Darren Waller was out with an injury. He's questionable for this week. So who do you have left to really depend your team on? Josh Jacobs, the only one that's been playing good on your offense really this whole year. I don't know. This Raiders team just fell apart. I don't understand it. But the Saints got to figure it out, and they shut them out. It was a nice win for the Saints. But as far as the Raiders go, will they still make the playoffs? Do I still think they're a good team? They're a good team on paper. But I don't know if they can make the playoffs, though, with given the way of how other teams are playing right now. The Miami Dolphins are up on them by maybe, I think, 3 games maybe. I believe the Saints are still, the Dolphins are above them. The Bengals are still above them. I mean, there's just a lot of. I got to look at the playoff picture again and see where everybody's standing right now. But the teams that I know right now that aren't winning their division and probably is like the outside looking in the playoffs. Like those are some teams that I'm looking at right now. The only team that I feel like they're probably are better than is really the Broncos in their own division that they could beat. And I think they could even beat the Chiefs, honestly. And they should have really beat them the last time. And they probably could beat the Chargers. I mean, there's still a lot of football left. There could be still some opportunities for the Raiders to turn it around and make the playoffs and be in the wild card. But if they play the way that they played against the Saints, this team won't go anywhere. And I hate to say that because of what I've liked about the team, what I've liked about this offseason, about the Raiders. But I don't know what it is, guys. It's just very concerning for me. If you are a team that's kind of evenly matched, you're kind of similar to this kind of team minus your defense, like you expect a better game from them. And I was expecting a much better game, but I have not seen that as of yet. I really have not seen it from the Raiders yet. Despite maybe like the 2 wins that they did get. I mean, there's a lot of games that they probably should have really won, and they wouldn't be in this situation. Like they should have beaten the Cardinals, a team that they were up like 20-0, and they still lost the game in overtime. Like that's a game that they should have won right there. The Chiefs would have been another game that they could have won right there, and they lost that by a point, and they lost on the last down because Hunter Renfrow and Devontae Adams decided to collide with one another. Like, there's good things about the Raiders that I do like. There's just they're not meshing well together yet as like a whole team. And I thought Josh McDaniels, I don't believe his coaching has been atrocious whatsoever. I think his play calling's been pretty solid for most of the season. I feel like there had been some questions I thought was kind of questionable if you are a Raiders fan. That hasn't really, settled well with me as like, a guy that likes to watch football and analyze like football and other teams. So there had been some questions that I have had about Josh McDaniels, but I think he's pulling away the best team that he possibly could. And guys, I mean, I know coaches are like, they have one of the biggest responsibilities. They get the most criticism out of anybody really on any football team because they're so close with the players. And if they are not playing well or a scheme is not working up to their potential, then, you're on the hot seat. And that's where, he could be on the hot seat by the end of the year going into next year. I don't think they'll fire him, but I think going into next year, he might be on the hot seat early in the season because of how, dysfunctional the season went early on in the season. But he can still turn it around. They can still make the playoffs if they start winning games. They have some winnable games ahead that they could win. We'll see how that goes. I'd like to see them go into the playoffs, but as far as like anything else outside of the playoffs, I don't think it's happening. As far as the Saints, could they make the playoffs this season? With the way the NFC is playing, I think anybody could be in the playoffs. It would be kind of nice to see how the Saints do in the playoffs, actually, because I kind of want to see like how Andy Dalton could win. Could he finally win like a big game against some of these top dogs here with like teams that are going to be at the top, probably like the Eagles, the Vikings, maybe the Bucks, maybe the 49ers, or even the Seahawks that's been playing, pretty well. Like, I want to see how all those kind of come into play. It'd be really interesting to see. All right. I want to talk about the Steelers and their offense, nightmareness. I don't like anything about what their offense has done this year. The Steelers offense is just very bad. Very, very bad. Defense is banged up. It's time to call it a season for the Steelers. It's time to finally have a losing season, Mike Tomlin, and we'll just move on from there. But the Eagles are still flying high. They're playing well. As far as like the talent and the strength of the schedule, I'll look at that at another night. But they do have some games I know they do have coming up in future weeks. I know they play the Texans. They should beat the Texans, I would think. They do play the Titans at one point. That's another AFC South team that's, hit or miss. That could be a team where the Titans could probably beat them with Derrick Henry, which we'll talk about the Titans in a little bit. Maybe the Colts could be a game that they could possibly lose. Like, there's a couple of games. And the Cowboys, they probably could lose to. The Giants, they could probably lose to. I mean, there's still some games I think that teams could beat the Eagles. But outside of that, I don't think there's that many teams, that other teams that could beat the Eagles just based on the given of their schedule and their strength. So that's all I want to say on that. Mac and cheese time. Yes, Mac Jones, he made his way back to the game. He made his way back into the starting lineup this week against the Jets. And what can I say about Mac Jones? Yeah, he threw some interception. He threw at least one interception. I don't think he had any other turnovers other than that. But I thought Mac Jones, after being benched last week, I thought Mac Jones played like Mac Jones again. I thought he managed the game very well. He managed the clock very well. The Patriots defense is playing well, so far this season. I think they're playing better. Like, this whole Patriots team as a whole, guys, nobody likes to give the Patriots the credit that they deserve. The Patriots are just a team that you may think you can beat easily, given with the talent that they have. And really, I will say this, the talent for the Patriots, yes, they do not have someone like a Jamar Chase. They don't have a Justin Jefferson. Yes, they don't have this. They don't have that. They don't have a Derrick Henry. They don't have any of that kind of stuff. But what they do have is they have a good, competent coach in Bill Belichick. They have Bill Belichick. He has his coaching staff that looked like it was going to be a struggle this year, but they're turning it together. Now, the reason why I'm praising the Patriots right now after winning against the Jets, because the Jets defense this year could very well possibly be in the top 10 unit by the end of the year. And if they do, they deserve it. And given with all the struggles that the Patriots offense have had this season, they took it to town and they took advantage of it. I thought they played exceptionally well. They can run the ball with Ramondre Stevenson. Damian Harris had some plays here and there, I believe, but Ramondre Stevenson took advantage of it. Mac Jones played the way Mac Jones normally plays with, the receivers. Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers is finally getting to where he should be. He's playing ball. He's getting involved in the offense. The defense for the Patriots is still playing, pretty good. They have a good defense. Matthew Judon, what have you. Jack Johnson, I think his name is, or Jack Jones, whatever his name is. Like, guys, this Patriots team, they may not seem like they have the most talent, but what I do say about the Patriots is that they're the most condensed team that can play very well together, and that's what they do. Mac Jones makes the best of what he can do. Bill Belichick, he's had a history of not drafting the right receivers. He's had the history of not drafting the right players in any given moments. But what he does do is that he does make the best of all the teams that he has had, and he's doing that right now with the Patriots. Are they the Tom Brady era dynasty with Brady, McDaniels, and Belichick? No. They're no longer going to be like that huge 20-year dynasty between the three. But however, it's a new group of players that are playing on this team. They can make up their own dynasty. I still think they're very, very under the radar. They're a team that I believe is still very hard to beat. A lot of teams they still underestimate the value that the Patriots do have, and that's why because every time you're going to underestimate the Patriots, guys, they're just going to be able to slap you across the face and just beat you up anyway. That's how it's always been with the Patriots. It's been a very good organization all these years with Brady when Brady was in it, and with Bill Belichick. Like, this team is still a force to be reckoned with. Like, I do not like to underestimate the Patriots whatsoever. Hardly ever do I ever pick against the Patriots. At least I try not to, because I just know how this coaching staff of Bill Belichick and them, I know what Bill Belichick is capable of. He always gets, the best teams together as much as he possibly could, and they play up to the standards of where they could or exceed expectations. Now, the Jets on the other side. Are the Jets still playoff contention? Are they going to be a team that's going to be still above the Patriots? Now, I like what the Jets. I've been praising the Jets for weeks now. I like what the Jets have done. The coaching staff is underrated. I think they deserve some credit for their success. But the most of the credit deserves the defense. It goes towards their defense. They've played a great pass rush within the last several weeks. They have a great run defense. They can stop any run game going on. And I think offensively, they have a great run game. Breece Hall out for the year. You have James Robinson, now you just acquired, and now you have Michael Carter. You're going to be splitting some time with between the both of the running backs. Zach Wilson, I love Zach Wilson. I like the way he plays, but I got to tell you, man, the boy, the man, whatever you want to call him, the high school looking boy, he needs to work on his mechanics. I will tell you right now, his mechanics, just watching, the game against the Patriots in the second half was very ugly to watch. I'm sorry to tell you that, Jets fans. I even watch Jets games too sometimes if the Giants aren't on or if they're playing at a different time. But I will say this. Zach Wilson needs to work on his mechanics. I can see where he throws the ball. He does have a lot of talent. Sometimes I believe he might even have better talent than Trevor Lawrence. But he's playing for the Jets. He's playing for, I guess maybe you could say, a lesser talented offense than the Jags. You could make a logical argument there maybe. But I like what Zach Wilson is capable of doing. I think he has a sling of an arm. He can throw the ball in any given way, in any different altitude. He can run. He can throw the ball. But I will tell you, he's similar to Jameis Winston, and I think he's similar to Matthew Stafford in some ways. He's got a lot of problems with seeing down the field. He's just not very accurate at all when it comes to a deep pass down the field accurately. And he throws a lot of interceptions and a lot of mistakes at that time, or at least even incompletions. There's a lot of problems with him in terms of that aspect goes. But other than that, if he can get his mechanics going, if this coaching staff is competent enough, which I think they're under the radar, they deserve some credit. I know a lot of people like to criticize Robert Saleh. I like Robert Saleh. I liked when he was a defensive coordinator with the Niners. I think he's done an exceptionally good job with the Jets turning this team around within a year to having a winning record and possibly getting themselves into the playoffs. But I will say this, if they can get his mechanics going, they can slow him down a little bit. He may be immature right now, but once he gets himself matured, gets some more playing time in the NFL, I believe he can get a lot better from this if he can start doing those things right here, right now. And if he can do that, this Jets team could probably be a lot better than what they are right now. That's how dangerous this Jets team really is. All right, next game I want to talk about. The Tennessee Titans at the Houston Texans. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about this game, so I'll make it as quick as I possibly can. But I just want to say this. Derrick Henry is a king, and he deserves to be credited for the entire Tennessee Titans offense. I'm sorry. I know everybody was so excited that Malik Willis, and some people were surprised that Malik Willis got drafted in the third round by none other than Tennessee. A lot of people, including myself, thought he would have gone to another team that was, ready to rebuild and probably want to work around his instincts. I thought the Falcons, or maybe even I thought the Falcons or the Panthers were the two teams that probably could have looked into getting him, but they didn't, and it is what it is. But I will tell you this right now, Malik Willis did absolutely nothing to help this team win. He threw the ball 10 times, I think. He threw the ball at least 10 times, threw for 55 yards, one interception. He had a bunch of rushing yards. I'll look it up real quick to see how he did. But I will tell you this, I'm sorry, Titans fans, but Derrick Henry deserves to be crowned King Henry. They rushed the ball 40 times. Derrick Henry got, 40 times or 45 times. Okay, if we want to consider Malik Willis into the rushing yards, yeah, they technically really did rush 45 times. But Derrick Henry took the bulk of the rushing yards, and he rushed for two touchdowns for 219 yards. Malik Willis only completed 6 out of his 10 passes for 55 yards and 1 interception. So Malik Willis did absolutely nothing in this entire game. He really didn't do anything in this whole game to help them get to a win. It was all Derrick Henry, because we all know that the Texans' defense, especially in the run defense, is absolutely garbage. And they were absolutely garbage. They continue to let up on Jonathan Taylor, like big running backs like that, like Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry. They still continue to give them a show, and they just run all over the run defense. Nobody can stop the run. Nobody can stop them from running. If you are the Texans' run defense, they are just so bad run defensively. As far as like a consistent pass rush and secondary, I think the best thing about this Texans defense that I have like this year that does deserve some credit, their secondary. I think their secondary has done a good job with playing coverage. I thought they've done a good job with covering good receivers this year. I think they're very underrated there. But as far as everything else goes, like anybody can run. I probably could even run on this Texans defense. That's how bad their run defense is. But you've got to give Derrick Henry the credit that he deserves. Now, as far as Malik Willis goes, does he have any upside? Well, this is only one game, and it's against a team that's not very good. So, in terms of that, and with all the talent that he is given, like the receivers, there's not really anything, really any receivers that aren't really anything all that special. They don't have an A.J. Brown to throw the ball to anymore. Maybe that would make a little bit of a difference, but there's no more A.J. Brown. There's no Corey Davis. There's no Khalif Raymond. Adam Humphries. There's no more of those kind of players. They're all gone now. Now you've got like players and receivers like Traylon Burks, who's on the IR right now. You have Austin Hooper, a tight end. He's not even really existent. I don't really know what to really think of him. Then you've got Dontre Hilliard. I like him. I like what he has done, and he did a really good job with rushing the ball too. I thought he did a really good job with that. I think he's a good shortstop runner, and I'm glad they were able to get him. Robert Woods, who's washed. Corey Hollister, don't know. Cody Hollister, whatever his name is, don't really know much about him. But what keeps this Titans team to be, condensed, what keeps them to be like the most that they are is obviously Mike Vrabel, the coach. Mike Vrabel should be an elite coach right now at this point in his career because of what the team that he has put together has been incredible over his 4 or 5 years that he has. Like, he's turned Ryan Tannehill into a really good quarterback after all. After leaving Miami, when you play for Adam Gase, you're never going to be really anything special there at all with Adam Gase. And once he came over to Mike Vrabel and took over the Titans in Week 7 in the 2019 season, that rejuvenated his entire career. I still like Ryan Tannehill. I still like him. I think he's still better than Malik Willis as a starting quarterback, and they look better, to be quite honest with you. Even with the talent that Tannehill has had over the last 2 years, 2 seasons at least, has not been the most talented in terms of receivers. But he's done the most of what he has been able to do. And I think with all the years in playing in Miami, he finally gets to redeem himself at the level that he has played with the Titans. Deserves credit there. But yeah, Malik Willis, man, he's got a long ways to go before he can really play football. It's going to be a long time until he does do that. So I can't really say I was impressed, nor can I really say he was good because there really wasn't a lot to really say about Malik Willis because he only threw 10 passes in the entire game. All right, sleepless in Seattle. All right, I did pick the Giants to win. I picked them the +3 because I felt confident. I thought that was going to be a good game. Regardless of who won this game, I thought either way was going to be a good team, a good game either way, and I thought it would have been evenly matched. Well, I'll say this right now. For the most part, it was at least, to my standpoint, it was really evenly matched. But what the Seahawks did that they have not been able to do yet this season, what he has not been able to do yet this season is what they haven't been able to do yet this season is being able to stop the run or play good defense. And that's exactly what the Seahawks did against the Giants at any given time, guys. It really does pain me to say it, but it has to be said. But their defense played rock solid. I liked the way they played defense the entire game. They stopped Saquon from making all the big runs. I thought Saquon really would have been the vocal point of why they won this game because of how great he's been, electrifying he's been for the Giants this year. I thought he would have been able to run all over run all over the Seattle Seahawks defense, but no, it was the complete opposite. The defense did an excellent job. I thought the Seahawks defense, in both respects, they played the coverage very well. Daniel Jones, they took him out. They didn't allow big plays from him. And in terms of, with the run, they did a really nice job with stopping Saquon. I was quite impressed with the way Seattle came to play defense. They were physical, they were fast, they played coverage. I liked it. And the Giants on the other side of the defense, I thought played exceptionally well. I thought the defense for the Giants has been playing well all season long. I thought they played a good game, minus the fact that they let up 27 points against the Seahawks. But I thought for the most part, I thought the defense played exceptionally well against the Seahawks. But at the end of the day, Geno Smith got the win. And I like that Geno Smith is finally being like a Ryan Tannehill and rejuvenating his entire football career. And now people are actually talking about him for once for being, everyone didn't think, including myself, didn't think he would have been a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. And honestly, I will be the first to admit I was absolutely positively wrong about that. And Gino, I am sorry, man. I am so sorry that I ever doubted you. You can play football. You know how to play football. You're a good football player. You really are a good football player. But what also really I have to give the credit to, and it's someone I haven't really given a lot of credit to over the years of watching football, especially the days of Russell Wilson, is Pete Carroll, man. I mean, what Pete Carroll brings to this team, yeah, Pete Carroll is the oldest coach in the NFL. Okay, I'll admit that. I always thought he was kind of annoying. He was always like the man that was always about himself and everything. Yeah, that's what I always thought about Pete Carroll growing up. But I got to say about Pete Carroll, he's like a Mike Vrabel. He brings the best out of any team that he is given. And he brings the most energy. He's the most enthusiastic coach in the NFL. He's always running up and down the sidelines, cheering, saying yippee, yay, and chewing his gum and, laughing and cheering along with his players. Like, Pete Carroll's got so much energy, and he loves the game of football. Like, guys, Pete Carroll deserves a lot of credit for this team as a whole. For many years, I always thought it was Russell Wilson that was carrying like this entire team. But now we kind of see that it's not actually that. It's really the other way around. It's really Pete Carroll that is a better coach than people ever really gave him credit for. He was always overshadowed by Russell Wilson's success. That kind of led to the success for Pete Carroll. But really, Pete Carroll is doing just fine without Russell Wilson. Maybe he's even doing even better with Geno Smith. I don't know. But regardless of what goes on and what goes down, Geno Smith, I'm glad he's finally redeeming himself. The Giants, it's a tough loss for the Giants. I was disappointed with the way that they played at the end. I think with the turnovers that they did get at the end, I think they did get a fumble there at the end and just giving up some big yardage there at the end. The defense, it just shows you that the offense for the Giants is still not there, despite winning like 4 games in a row or something. You're 6-1 going into this game. Regardless of that, I think their offense still has a long ways to go before I can say they're really good. They're good enough to get you wins. They're good enough that can keep themselves out there for a longer time period. But it's really their defense that kind of wins them a lot of these games, and Saquon that bails them out a lot of time. Now, I'm not saying that to criticize Daniel Jones, because I think Danny Dimes has been playing better since now that he finally has a competent, good coach in Brian Dable and Don Martindale's with his defense. So, that's all I got to say on that. Danny Dimes, I'm sure he will get better. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. They may have declined his fifth-year option, but we could see him back in New York next year. All right. Next game is Sam Ehlinger. He played his very first game with the Indianapolis Colts after they benched Matt Ryan, which was a huge, disappointment for, a lot of people, and including myself. This was kind of one of the last things I was expecting for Frank Reich and the Colts to do to someone like a veteran like Matt Ryan. Was it the best decision in the world to do it? Well, let's kind of go into it a little bit. I didn't really get to watch a lot of this game, But the Commanders came in. Taylor Heineke came back from where he was losing for quite a bit, and he came back to win this game, which is something that Taylor Heineke does really well, and he does really good with like fourth quarter comebacks. And I feel like with the Commanders, since Taylor Heineke took over for Carson Wentz, I feel like Heineke should really start the rest of the season because I feel like he excels well with this team. I think he has good chemistry with this team, and he might even save Ron Rivera his coaching job. He might actually save them if they continue playing the way that they've been playing. As far as everything else, like I like Taylor Heineke better than Carson Wentz right now. I feel like he's a better quarterback. He has more chemistry with the team. He's been there a little bit longer than Carson. He may not have like many big wins. Actually, I should take that back. I think Taylor Heineke has some good wins. He's beaten the Bucks before last year. He's given Tom Brady some trouble before, especially with that win last year and the year before that in the playoffs. When they were playing in Washington, and it was the year that the Bucks won the Super Bowl. He gave him a hard time there. That team did. The Commanders are a good team. I don't think they're a bad team whatsoever. They did not have a great start to the season, yes, and I think a lot of that is really because of Carson Wentz and his ability to really mess up on a lot of plays and just holding on to the ball for too long and his poor play of quarterback. And I think since Taylor Heineke took over, I feel like this team looks better. They look more fast. They look more in sync. I just think he has a better chemistry with the team, and I think they should continue starting him moving forward, which is something that probably could potentially happen. Now, Sam Ellinger, I watched a little bit of his game. It's early to really tell whether or not he's going to be good in the future or not. I didn't think he had a bad start to his NFL career. I thought he played exceptionally well given the circumstance of facing like a team like the Commanders. Like the defense is not really, not the most impressive defense like everyone thought they would have been this year. I thought the defense would have been so much better than what they've been playing. But he's a young rookie quarterback. He made rookie mistakes. That's what we saw. But I think he does have some bit of a bright future for them. We'll see how he does next week. We'll see. I mean, I think the Colts are still a team. They're still trying to find their identity. I think not Mike Vrabel. Sorry, I think Frank Reich is on the hot seat right now. I think he's kind of feeling like, well, we'll see if I'm going to be here next year. We'll see if I can really help create this team out to where they should be. And I want to be able to create the best team that I could. And I think Frank Reich is still a good coach, but I think he's in the hot seat right now. I think that's the reason why they had to start Sam Ellinger in this game, because Matt Ryan really wasn't playing up to the standards of where the Colts would have been. They thought they could have had a Super Bowl win with Matt Ryan. Don't know why they thought that, but they thought that was going to happen, and it didn't end up being the case. It's not working out. Now they got to turn the season to Sam Ellinger. We'll see if he really turns the season around, but at the same time, I don't really see him right now. I don't think he played a bad game, but I think, moving forward and with the starts of his games that he is having, we'll see how he really does and if he's anything better than Matt Ryan, which could be a possibility. I think Matt Ryan's time is done. I think he is probably going to end up retiring at the end of this year. But I think, with, starting a quarterback like Sam Ellinger, who's not going to have, he's going to have his whole entire career of the NFL to really prove himself. I think, it's a good starting point for Sam Ellinger. I think it's a good start for him in his career. We kind of see like where he's at. Is he the future of this team or not? And then you have Matt Ryan, who's a veteran, who's going to be always ready. He'll be kind of like the Eli Manning, I feel like, of, 2019 season when Danny Dimes came in. I think Eli Manning stepped down to be, benched and be able to, let Daniel Jones take over, and which was the right decision. At the end of the day, it was the right decision. I think Matt Ryan will come to terms of understanding, like, his time is really done now at 37, 38 years old. I think he realizes there's not much time for him in the NFL. I don't think it's no longer really his thing. So I think really the best thing he's going to end up doing is I think he's going to end up just coaching and mentoring his quarterback as best as he could. And I think that's exactly what he's going to end up doing. But I feel bad for the Colts. I don't think they're a bad team, but they're just not gelling well together with all they have. They've had a rough start to the season. Yet again, they're starting very slow. But I do think the future is going to be bright. They still have a chance to make the playoffs. I think Frank Reich is still a good coach. I think you keep him around for a bit. But they do have a lot of things they got to clean up, and they got to see if this guy is really going to be their quarterback moving forward. As far as the Commanders go, there's not a lot I like about the Commanders. I thought there were some things I liked about them early in the season. I think they have a good run game, or a good enough run game to get you going. Really, outside of Terry McLaurin, there's really not like any electrifying receivers on this team, but I think the run game is really well put together. That's really about it about this team. But other than that, really, and the defense I thought would have been a lot better than what I anticipated them to be this year, but they haven't really played up to that until this game, and they came to town and they did a good job with it. But it is what it is. It happens. All right, next we got CMC Christian McCaffrey. Ever since the 49ers got Christian McCaffrey, it changes the evolution of the 49ers in almost everything. And them beating the Rams was the most satisfying way to say, see you later, Rams, to the Super Bowl champs from a year ago. They took it to the house. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about this rivalry, but I love the way that this rivalry is. I love how Jimmy Garoppolo, a quarterback that's not anywhere really near the talent level as good as Matthew Stafford is, and a team that may not have as good of talent as the Rams do on paper, really, but coaching makes a big difference. I get more excited about the coaching than I really do about the game as a whole. And the reasoning behind that really is because the two best coaches in the NFL of Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, it's just intriguing to see like a good in-division rivalry go on there with two great offensive mindsets. And for whatever reason, Shanahan just knows exactly what he has to do to beat Sean McVay and the Rams. That's how it always has been. They're 8-0 against them in the last few seasons. Jimmy Garoppolo is undefeated against the Rams in the regular season since then. There's just so many great things about the 49ers that they do really exceptionally well against the Rams in. And I think Christian McCaffrey just added that exclamation point of why this 49ers team should be good. So getting McCaffrey was the best thing for them going. But if you are the Rams, on the Rams side of things, man, you got a lot of things to think about. You play the Bucs next week. You have a good chance to beat the Bucs. You match up well against the Bucs. But, you're in some trouble right now. You're in some trouble right now that you've got to really look out for yourself. You couldn't beat the 49ers in the regular season. You had a hard time beating other teams as well. You had a difficult time with other teams playing, whether if you're winning or you're losing. The Rams are, you guys got to really know what you're doing and what your identity is going to be, because it's not been consistent at all this season for you guys. It has not been, and I can see you easily missing the playoffs this year. Really could. All right, we've got a couple more games left. We got Stephon Diggs. Yes, Stephon Diggs. He had a solid game against Zaire Alexander and the Bills as they steamrolled the Packers 27-17. I loved watching this game. It was just so satisfying to watch this game for a lot of reasons. It just proved to everybody that follows football all the time, that's a football fanatic, including myself, that the Bills are the best team in the AFC and in the NFL. And they just absolutely showed it against the Packers. They not shut out, but they shut down Aaron Rodgers completely. They gave Aaron Rodgers and the Packers a lot of problems. Zaire Alexander, for most of the night was covering Gabe Davis, which I thought was kind of interesting. I was not really expecting as much as like Zaire Alexander to be covering Gabe Davis as much as he was, but he has. And and that kind of took like Gabe Davis out for like making like real explosive plays. There were some times that Josh Allen was throwing the ball deep down to Gabe Davis, and he was always there, covering him, and they did a really good job with not allowing those explosive plays. And they did a good job with keeping Stephon Diggs out of the game a little bit, that which kind of forced them to run the ball. Now, I've been saying this really all season long, and I will say this again, but I do need to really make mention as far as you know, the Bills go, yes, they are the best team in the NFL. They really are. I stand by that completely. And I'm stop sharing my screen for a second. But I do want to say this though. The Bills, they are running the ball better. They are running the ball better than they did a year ago. But I feel like they should have ran this game a lot more than what they did on Sunday Night Football. I'm just saying that from a perspective that way because I feel like they really, really could have done so much more. They could have put up at least a 40 burger on this team. I truly believe they could have put up a 40 burger on this particular team, but they didn't. They should, and at least they should have, because I feel like with the Packers defense, I don't believe it's a good defense. I think they're a very overrated defense, in my personal opinion. Outside of secondary, I think you have someone like Frank Clark, and you have and you have Zaire Alexander and whatnot. You have Clark playing, and you have Alexander. You have good defensive players, but your consistency and your coaching, that's not really all there, is kind of, in my personal opinion, is kind of where it's a little bit more frustrating, because you have this talent, but you're not playing to anywhere where you should be playing at that time. So that's where I'm leading towards that kind of aspect as I'm pulling this back up. But yes, I mean, when you're talking good matchups, this was a good matchup. The Packers defense, in terms of secondary, they have a very underrated secondary. Zaire Alexander, we know how good he really is in the secondary. We know how good Clark is as well. Whether it's Frank Clark or it's Kenny Clark, whoever it really is, doesn't really matter. Still very good, helps your defense out. But, without some of those players, your defense really is absolutely nothing without those defensive players. But defensively, I thought the Packers played a better defensive game in terms of secondary, and they did a good job with coverage. But I got to say, though, man, if you are the Bills, you would have expected to run this ball way more. And they easily could have put up a 40 burger on this team. But for whatever reason, it wasn't in the cards for them. They just chose not really to blow them out too big like that, because I really think it was very possible that they could have absolutely positively been able to do that. But they didn't. It was a good game, though, overall. I thought it was a very satisfying win for the Bills, and it really set the tone for how the Bills are. It sets the tone of how good of a team they really could be. That's what I really look like at the end of the day, in that aspect. So that's what I look into. All right, last game I want to talk about before I sign off. The Browns own Zach Taylor and the Bengals. Yes, I will say this real quick. The Browns, I watched a lot of this game last night. I don't even know why I was watching this game. Oh, wait. Yes, I do. Because I had 3 Bengals players that were playing on my fantasy team last night. So, or actually, no, I had 4. I had Joe Burrow in one league. And then my other league, I had 3. I had T. Higgins, who was without Jamar Chase, was going to be the number 1 receiver. Tyler Boyd and Hayden Hurst. That's all the 4 Bengals players that I had playing last night. And I will say this right now. T. Higgins, I don't trust T. Higgins. He's very good, but I don't think he's a good wide receiver one for this team without Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow as a whole, yes, he helped me get a win in fantasy football and what have you, but, I don't know if I really trust T. Higgins to really be the long-term number 1 receiver for a team like the Bengals. And you can tell Joe Burrow did not have a good game. He really did not have a good game, which was very disappointing in my perspective, because I love Joe Burrow. There's a lot I like about him, his charisma, his play of quarterback. There's a lot I like about Joe Burrow, but you can tell just watching last night's game, he just looked absolutely lost without his best receiver of Jamar Chase. And just top that all off, their offensive line played absolutely terrible. He got sacked at least 5 times. He met up with Myles Garrett and company, and that's rough when you're facing someone like Myles Garrett that's a good edge rusher and can get to the quarterback, that's very scary. That's very scary to get Myles Garrett involved on your team. Very scary to face against Myles Garrett, given the fact that he did whack Mason Rudolph with the helmet 3 or 4 years ago. The Bengals have a lot of things they got to fix on. They really do got a lot of things they got to fix on. And they got to fix on the offensive line. Now, as far as how the defense went, they were definitely mismatched, 100%. Because the Browns offensively, I got to say, they turned it on. Not just in the run game, but Jacoby Brissett. I would like more people to talk about Jacoby Brissett this season, minus out of like the Deshaun Watson, trade and the controversy going on there with Deshaun Watson and what he was going to be playing. But I gotta say though, even with a losing record, this is probably the best I've seen Jacoby Brissett play in his career, and that's like starting off like as a third string quarterback for the Patriots, having some playing time in place of Andrew Luck with the Colts, uh, getting 1 year behind Tua and starting some games against Tua, and then now he's playing for the Browns. I think this is like the best system that I think Jacoby Brissett fits best in, and it's really showed this season. I feel like this is like his best football of his career. He's been playing. He really connects well with Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones that not enough people have been really talking about, but he's been having a pretty fine season himself this year. Uh, David Njoku was out for this game, which was kind of disappointing because he was also having a pretty good year too. And their offensive line, I think, is probably the best offensive line that Brissett has faced, has had in his entire career. So, I think the Browns are a good team. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I believe I said it even last week too. I like what the Browns do have. They do have the talent to beat anybody. They run the ball very well. They have a good coaching staff. Brissett is a good backup quarterback that's starting right now until Watson comes back. Brissett is a good quarterback. He really is genuinely a very, very good quarterback that can get you some wins. That can help get you wins for this Browns team. So there's a lot of time for the Browns to probably, steal away the division. There could be a time where they could make the playoffs still, make it like a wild card appearance. There's a lot of things about the Browns that they could do, but there is talent for this team. Now, are they better than the Bengals? Well, in this matchup last night, yes, they were completely outmatched. But the Bengals are also still a good team. Even without Jamar Chase, you still have good receivers. Joe Burrow is still very good. Joe Mixon, he's been up and down this year, but he's still a pretty good running back. When you need to run the ball, you can run the ball with him, and you can run it well. There's a lot of things about the Bengals right now that they're missing. Offensive line is absolutely terrible. Then you've got the defense, too, that has been playing well up to this point in the season, but the last couple weeks since I've been seeing the Bengals play, defense has not really been anywhere, where it's been for most of this season. They've let up a lot of points, especially last night. But there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things about the Bengals that I do like, but there's also some holes that they have too. And there's, it's pretty glaring holes too that they also have to try to fix in the near future. But now I can definitely see either one of these two teams making the playoffs. And even if they do, I think they could maybe have some success. Maybe that's just me, talking, out of my butt. But they're still, this is like two teams that are still going to be fighting for a playoff spot. They're both evenly matched teams. That, besides last night, it was a mixed match. But I think once Jamar Chase does come back, which is going to be a while, it's going to be at least 6 weeks without Jamar Chase. That's really going to hurt Burrow and the offense a lot in terms of explosiveness. But I feel like if Burrow and the offensive line can block for him and Burrow can not hold on to the ball for so long, and that's another thing too. I don't know what it is about Joe Burrow, but for whatever reason, even when the offensive line is giving him time to throw the ball, which he really doesn't get a whole lot of time normally, but when he does hold on to the ball for too long, and I think it's because he's genuinely scared of getting hit hard. I think that's really why he holds on to the ball for so long, because I think he just fears of getting clobbered and forcing a fumble. I think that's really what it is. I think he just is so scared about making a big mistake on, on downs is what I really think it comes down to. All right, so without all that being said, this is my Week 8 recap reaction video. I hope everybody got the chance to enjoy it. Again, I apologize for the delay a little bit earlier, but I hope you all had a great time with learning about some football. Tomorrow, I will be going live tomorrow. I might be going on a little bit earlier. I'll let you know. But as far as tomorrow goes, I am going to start giving out my Week 9 predictions, and I'll be giving you like my picks for Week 9 and maybe even some best bets too. But it's been a good week of football. It's been a good season. To those who have been consistently coming on and everything, I appreciate all of that and what you guys do. So, with all that being said, drop a like on this video if you're able to. Drop a like on both parts 1 and 2. Also, drop a comment down below too if you're able to. I'd like to see what kind of content you would like me to do in the near future. Also, hit that subscribe button as well. I need you guys to hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, because so that way you guys can know any given time that I am going live, and so that way you can tune in when that does happen. So with all that being said, this is your boy JP Football Fanatic saying peace out, and we will see you all tomorrow night. Thank you, everybody. God